No,
I've never played the lottery before.
I have. Yeah. Why not when it gets high enough? But I would say on the temperature side, I mean, I think President Trump should take credit for solving global warming. Yeah. Look at how cold it is. That's just another accomplishment that we need to put on the list. Global warming, done. But President Trump eradicated it.
That cold weather did not stop President Trump from firing back against fire and fury yesterday as we took you through the 4 hours of the president literally firing back as we were holding this show. And
that's shocking. That doesn't make any sense. No.
He's not a counterpuncher.
And then
that's fake news. All right, I think we have some sound from that.
Yesterday.
There we go. Thank you, Pete. Tag team.
I went to the best college. I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, went to television, ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that doesn't know me at all, by the way, did not interview me he said he interviewed me for 3 hours in the White House. I consider it a work of fiction. And I think it's a disgrace that somebody's able to have something, do something like that. Just so you understand, there's been no collusion. There's been no crime. I'm not under investigation. When you've done nothing wrong, let's be open. It's making our country look foolish. And this is a country that I don't want looking foolish.
So there you have it.
It's true. I mean, look at if the rest of the world is looking at all of this and the spectacle of the palace intrigue, of the gossip columns, they look at this, it does look foolish from the outside. And this is a president who said, no one else is going to defend me, including most establishment Republicans, so I'm going to defend myself, which is exactly what he's gone out and done.
Well, I think that some of these attacks would be a little bit more potent if it wasn't so painfully obvious what those who hate the president are trying to do. I mean, look, we've had racism, we've had sexism, somehow we've had $100,000 of Facebook ads somehow bought the election for the Russians, which is ridiculous if you've ever worked in politics or know anything about media buying and ad placement. And the fact that $100,000 is literally a joke, and anyone with a nominal amount of money or $100,000 could go out and do that. And then now he's mentally unfit to serve in office. And so, when you ping pong from one of these things to the other, and then the media carries it, the left carries it.
That's an important
and it's just so obvious.
I mean, to put in context, this president is unprecedented in so many ways.
That press conference you just gave is not something.
To have zero experience in politics before and now become president of the United States against all odds, we all know the story. But what is also now proving to be unprecedented is the narrative that so many in the media are carrying, that this is an undisciplined man-child that sits in bed eating cheeseburgers. But yet, look at the accomplishments he's accomplished in 2017. So we're seeing an unprecedented treatment of an American president as it unfolds. And not everyone in the media, even though I know you love to attack
you read
him.
Maggie Haberman, who I partnered up with once yesterday for the first time ever in my life. You read this news article. It's unbelievable. Mr. Trump's self-absorption, impulsiveness, lack of empathy, obsessive focus on Slack. I mean, this passes as news in the world today. And it's unbelievable. And I think it leads a lot of people. And this is not just President Trump. This is what they've done to Republicans for decades. Remember the Barry Goldwater rule? The American Psychiatric Association built its own rule about analyzing people that you've never met. They did the same thing to Barry Goldwater, same thing to Ronald Reagan, and now even more and worse to President Trump. They can't disagree with his policies. They have to say that he's unstable.
Also, I find it offensive that if you eat cheeseburgers or you like ice cream or chocolate cake, that somehow you're unfit to serve in office, because some of us like to eat healthy.
I had a cheeseburger and cheese fries last night.
I had a cheeseburger yesterday.
Clearly, cheeseburgers upset people in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, they're all upset, right?
Along with this book, the director Judd Apatow.
I had to look him up. I didn't know who he was.
I knew who he was, but
he has quite colorful tweets. Let's throw this up. Please shut the expletive up.
Don't say that.
For once in your life, shut the expletive up. We all need one moment of peace, you spoiled, self-involved idiot. Take a nap. Change your sheets. Eat a non-poisoned Big Mac. There's a cheeseburger. Take a expletive break for a moment. Give us that gift.
That's right.
I hope his thumbs actually aren't hurting.
How about Judd gives us a gift and stop with these stupid
He didn't stop there, by the way.
Twitter messages.
You want to read this?
Oh, okay, I'll read it.
There's another tweet, too.
Well, so he went on, and he said, we all should be filling the offices of our legislators and calling nonstop today demanding this mentally ill president be removed. Not doing so puts lives at risk. If we don't, history will ask, why didn't we act?
Thank
you, Judd, for
I wonder if the director of 40-Year-Old Virgin will be leading the charge taking on this president and the resistance. I mean, he made a lot of funny movies that you and I have laughed at and gone to the box office for. But you put up. Why is he the exemplar of what should be done to remove? He just wants to remove the president. Apparently, he hasn't read the Constitution.
This is what Hollywood does.
It's exactly.
They don't understand America. They thumb their nose at the rest of America. They sit on their high horse, act like they're holier than thou, and then we find out that their own house isn't in order. They live in glass houses and they love to throw stones. So I think most of Americans are just tired of hearing from them. And it's just stop it. Stick to what you know. I mean, remember Gwyneth Paltrow? She was like, I'm going to do the the food stamp challenge, and then she ended up eating a steak or something like that. And then it was equal pay that she was on to next. Like, it's just, I think it's a positive thing for Americans to want change, but stop living in glass houses and go out and actually do something. Get your hands dirty. Go out into the communities.
Thankfully, we have the Golden
Globes. And some of them do, but go out in the communities and help people.
Yeah, and if you're going to do something, by the way, if you're following Judd Apatow's advice, the offices to Congress aren't open today, so you're going to waste your time if you dial all day long.
Keep calling,
actually. But the Golden Globes are coming up, and I'm sure you're going to want to watch. They're going to be very interesting. Email us. Are you waiting with bated breath for the Golden Globes? Will you be watching? Friends at FoxNews.com. Do you want to hear more politics from Hollywood? Well, speaking of Hollywood for ugly people, that's what they call Washington, D.C. Literally Hollywood for ugly people.
I used to work there, so let's be a little...
And I still work there.
Why should we be nice to Washington, D.C.? Why?
No, but I mean,
the 5 richest counties in America,
it's the nation's
they're enriching
capital.
Themselves on the backs of the American taxpayer. Oh, I wish. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
But they called Capitol Hill.
Let's go to Washington.
They called Capitol Hill the place for ugly people, which I worked on Capitol Hill for a number of years. So
I just take absolute offense to that. But that's not what we're talking about.
So President Trump yesterday at Camp David laid out what he said time and time again, that if they want a deal on DACA, we are going to get the wall. This is what he said.
The wall's going to happen, or we're not going to have DACA. We want to get rid of chain migration. We need some additional border security. These are great people. We all want DACA to happen, but we also want great security for our country. We have to get rid of the visa lottery. They're not sending us their finest. I think, frankly, the Democrats feel strongly about it, too. I mean, Chuck Schumer, he saw somebody that came in through the lottery system. He saw this man kill 8 people on the West Side Highway. I really think we'll have a lot of Democrat support. I hope so. I believe that Mexico will pay for the wall. We're negotiating NAFTA, but Mexico will pay. In some form, Mexico will pay for the wall.
Now, this is an issue that you need to pay attention for the rest of the 3.5 hours. We're going to talk about this because many of the Democrats, and we're going to go through all of it, supported these immigration initiatives and a law that was passed already that authorized 700 miles of border fence. President Trump has now put a plan forward to basically double that amount. And these Democrats are being, perhaps in many cases, swayed by this book and this narrative that the president is somehow mentally unstable to cut a deal to give these dreamers under DACA some legal status, possibly permanent status to remain in this country. It is an important issue. It is going to play out this week, and we're going to go through it.
But in 2013, these many Senate Democrats voted yes on border security. Look at this long list, 54 of them at the time. But here's just a few examples. You've got Elizabeth Warren, who the president calls Pocahontas. You've got Kristen Gillibrand. You've got Bernie Sanders. You've got crying Chuck Schumer. They voted for a border wall. They also voted in 2006 during George W. Bush's tenure to fund a border wall. And let's not forget that Bill Clinton in 1996 in his State of the Union address, and we're going to play that sound, called for a border wall. So Democrats in 96, in 06, in 2013 voted for, put their money where their mouth was.
On what their objectives are on DACA, because the reality is they're in the minority. And if you're President Trump, this is your opportunity to use your leverage as the President of the United States when the issue of immigration is on the table and Congress has to act because they have a March deadline. And so President Trump, if he wants to get the wall done, if he wants to get the RAISE Act done, if he wants to get some of these priorities done, that is his time to really hold Congress's feet to the fire and try to push for those policies.
It's a great point. And as we continue on the show, we're going to keep drilling down into this subject. What kind of deal will happen? Well, we've got a few more headlines we're going to bring to you this morning, and we begin with extreme weather. A bitter cold freeze gripping more than 100 million people from South Carolina to Maine this morning, where temperatures could hit record lows. Tourists tightly bundling up while overlooking the frozen waters of Niagara Falls. Take a look at that. Wow, beautiful. And the bitter Arctic air in the Midwest making the walk down Chicago streets brutal, or pretty much any street you want to walk down today. There could be more snow and ice tonight from the Great Lakes to northern New England before milder temperatures swoop in to thaw us all out. Plus, one lucky person is about $560 million richer after winning the Powerball ticket, as Griff mentioned earlier, in New Hampshire. The winning numbers in Saturday's drawings are 12, 29, 30, 33, 61, and the Powerball 26. No one has yet claimed that prize. Better get to it. The big jackpot comes a day after a winning Mega Millions ticket worth $450 million was sold at this 7-Eleven in Port Richey, Florida. The winner has yet to come forward. So we've got about $1 billion on the table right now. Well, the NFL playoffs kicking off, the Atlanta Falcons shutting down the Rams in Los Angeles, the team never trailing in its 26-13 win. And in Kansas City, the Tennessee Titans erasing an 18-point deficit thanks to their QB. Marcus Mariota's touchdown, he threw it to himself. He almost passed the line of scrimmage, decided to throw it, deflected back into his own arms. The Titans stunning the hometown Chiefs 22-21. Two more matchups today. First, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Jaguars, then the Carolina Panthers going up against the New Orleans Saints. Some great games today as well. And those are your headlines.
Good job, Pete.
Well, I'll tell you, it was quite a game. I was watching that. But we've got a lot more to talk about. And give us a call here or email us at friends@foxnews.com if you won that lottery ticket. We want to talk to you. So, the media obsessing over the new book, trying to take down President Trump.
Let's start with Fire and Fury.
Fire and Fury.
That bombshell book, Fire and Fury.
This new book is the talk of the town here in Washington.
But why aren't they focusing on his accomplishments? We'll talk a lot about that coming up.
Those of us here at the podium, you'd like to see America be a right-of-center country. From a right-of-center point of view, 2017 was the most consequential year in the many years that I've been here in Congress.
And he's been there many years. It's been an impressive list of the accomplishments for the GOP and President Trump, but the media can't stop focusing on that anti-Trump book and, by extension, attacking the president. Here to react, founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. Charlie, thanks for being here this morning. So you represent an organization of a lot of young people who, for them, this maybe is the first Republican president they've been exposed to or have supported. Are they obsessing over what the media is obsessing over, the palace intrigue, or are they looking at it saying, hey, some things are finally happening in Washington?
They're looking at this economy and they're seeing an absolute explosion of economic growth. And look, I call this book total garbage tabloid journalism. I mean, this would not even suffice regular editorial standards. And yet you look at what this president has accomplished over the last year. It's absolutely unprecedented. And it makes sense that the media now in this new year is completely ignoring all these accomplishments. They're using this gossip column book to try to create this fake news aura around this White House and the presidency. But what the president has accomplished over the last year to actually deliver results for the American people, the largest middle-class tax cut in American history, opening up our natural resources, the Dow hitting 25,000, over $6 trillion of new wealth created domestically. These are stories the media refuses to tell, not to mention ISIS is nearly completely obliterated in the Middle East, yet they're worried about how many cheeseburgers the president is eating. And you look at how many factual inaccuracies are actually in this book, it's laughable. If this was written about the Obama presidency, the media wouldn't even take two looks at it.
Well, that's it. I mean, you use two words that I don't know that exist that much, editorial standards. I mean, what are their standards other than disparaging this president? Because they would never give into the narrative of a right-wing writer who wrote something about the Obama administration. I mean, does it not continue to call into question what this president has pointed out about the fake news media?
That's right. It's horrible hypocrisy. And look, this is just tabloid-type gossip column stuff. Seriously, it's the stuff that you buy when you're checking out at the grocery store, and yet you're seeing it on every major news network. Make no mistake, though, when you start to see the media scramble frenetically over this, that's how you know the president is succeeding. Sure. You see the economy doing well. You see ISIS retreating. You see the middle-class incomes going up. That's how you know he's succeeding, because they refuse to tell those stories because they want to ideologically destroy this president and the people around him.
Briefly, Charlie, how important is this next month as it pertains to building the wall and a deal on DACA?
so important, and I hope Congress stands with the president to fulfill his campaign promise to build the wall and actually do what he said they were going to do. And look, I agree with Leader McConnell. I've been very critical with him over the last year, but he's done a very good job to help stand with the president overall.
Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got it. Well, it's not shocking that a liberal actress mocked President Trump on Twitter, but why did the Army's official account like her tweet? We'll find out. And President Trump laying out his demands for a so-called DACA deal.
We want the wall. The wall's going to happen or we're not going to have DACA.
Democrats used to want a wall. Now they're lock, stock, and barrel against it. Will Democrats come to the table to make a deal? We debate it next.
Problem, Washington State will soon allow residents to change their sex on birth certificates to a gender-neutral option. The new rules starting January 27th will let people identify as gender X instead of male or female, and no doctor permission is required. Oregon became the first state to enact the rule back in June. And Dunkin' Donuts is scaling back its food and drink menu by 10%. The new simplified menu will debut tomorrow in New England locations before expanding nationwide by mid-March. The chain getting rid of the less popular and more time-consuming items to make smoothies and afternoon sandwiches. President Trump once again laying out his demands for a DACA deal. Take a listen.
Thanks, Lisa. Take a listen to the president yesterday.
We want the wall. The wall's going to happen or we're not going to have DACA. We want DACA to happen. Everybody, I think I can speak for everybody. We want John Cornyn from Texas. We all want DACA to happen. But we also want great security for our country. So important. We want to stop the drugs from flowing in.
So should Democrats finally come to the negotiating table and make a deal? Here to debate it, host at The Blaze, Lawrence Jones, and Democrat strategist Chuck Rocha. Good morning, gentlemen. Chuck, I want to start with you because you're a Sanders guy. You're his surrogate. Yesterday, the senator issued a statement. I want to put it up and read it for you. Shortly after President Trump was speaking, here's what Senator Sanders said. He said, I am not sure why President Trump wants to shut down the government over a multi-billion-dollar wall that no one wants, is not needed, and will not be paid for by Mexico. What the American people do want in overwhelming numbers is to provide legal protection to 800,000 Dreamers and a path towards citizenship for them. So, Chuck, I start with you. Why not do a deal? The president said this gives them legal status, and here's what he wants: $18 billion for construction for a wall.
I think because it's really two way different topics, two different subjects. These Dreamers, these young people, these kids came here. They've all had a criminal background check. They all have jobs. We've educated them in our university. 20,000 of them are public school teachers. 10,000 of them serve in our military. This should be a whole separate thing than somebody wanting to build a wall, which we have built in Brownsville and El Paso and other places. As you said on the lead-in, Democrats have voted for walls and we built walls. If he wants a new wall, I was part of the campaign. I'm waiting for Mexico to build the new wall. We'll probably come to the table on that.
Lawrence, I assume you agree with him.
I disagree with him. Here's the bottom line. There is no deal. The deal is this. Either they get with the program because the president won this election on this principle of building the wall, or they don't get legal status. That's just the bottom line. The American people will not tolerate this president going along with a plan that does not include, first, border security. He will literally destroy his entire movement of Americans that were the forgotten Americans. Look, at the end of the day, I want to be compassionate, although I don't even believe that we should be talking about this DACA issue until we take care of American citizens first. I think we can get to some type of deal, but it only happens if we have border security.
Chuck, I see you shaking your head.
I was shaking my head because America stands for exactly what these Dreamers are. They came here as babies. They went to our university. We've taken our tax dollars and we've educated them. They don't even speak Spanish. So if you want to send them back to a country they don't even belong to.
Well, that's a good point.
Well, I'm not saying send them there. What I'm saying is that we should take care of the issues of the American people first. That means making sure our economy
absolutely, like our public school teacher and our veterans in our army, where these Dreamers are serving at.
Well, let me stop you for 1 second.
All of them are serving there. Go ahead.
This fight that's playing out, how much, and Chuck, I'll let you answer this first, how much is this new derogatory portrait of President Trump being painted in Michael Wolff's book, how much of this is playing to hurting this deal, which affects, in both cases, both dreamers and, of course, the concerns like security of the American people?
Look, I'm not a policy expert. Unlike Lawrence, I do politics for a living. So what this is all about is politics. And in this town, in Washington, D.C., they're using this as a pawn. Either the Democrats are using it to get more Democrats elected. Republicans are going to use it to gin up their base. That's what's wrong with our system as a whole. It's our whole political system is to gin up both bases and really not get anything done.
That's a broad brush. Lawrence, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I disagree because the American people sent this president there to do a job, and he campaigned on this. And so this is not just about politics. This is about keeping a word to the American people. Look, at the end of the day, I'm concerned about my community, the black community, about jobs being taken away from. Under this president, we have the lowest unemployment for black folks ever since it's been tracked. And I want to continue that trend. First, we need to take care of the American people, and then we can talk about DACA, we can talk about immigrants, we can talk about all of that. I think it's great to be compassionate, but at the end of the day, the American people want this president to take care of them first.
Well, we'll see what happens. Lawrence Jones, Chuck Rocha, thank you very much for coming on. And, of course, that January 19th deadline hanging out there. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Stay warm.
Be good.
All right, President Trump calling out the media for pushing the Russia collusion story.
I guess the collusion now is dead because everyone found that after a year of study, there's been absolutely no collusion.
Guess who thinks it's a host? Dan Bongino. He'll explain exactly why this is a hoax. And if you don't like that anti-Trump book, Fire and Fury, Amazon doesn't want to know about it. Here's why they're deleting their reviews. We've got that coming up.
It's your shot of the morning. Sorry, I was dancing. But the president and his cabinet wishing a happy birthday to Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos at Camp David.
Happy birthday. The group taking a moment to celebrate early with a birthday cake for her during their working lunch. DeVos will be turning 60 tomorrow.
May she continue to dismantle Common Core with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Secretary.
Happy birthday. Someone else who would love to devastate Common Core, I believe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is Dan Bongino, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. Am I correct, Dan?
Oh, gosh. Common Core. It's common and it's disaster it's imposed across the country. So, yes.
There you go. There you go. Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Well, yesterday at Camp David, President Trump had a few other things to say. He mentioned amongst this book and the gossip column that it is, he talked about Russian collusion. Take a listen to the president.
To prevent terrorism and crime, both here and abroad.
Do things proper. And, I guess the collusion now is dead because everyone found that after a year of study, there's been absolutely no collusion. There has been no collusion between us and the Russians. Now, there has been collusion between Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the Russians. Unfortunately, you people don't cover that very much. But the only collusion is between Hillary and the Russians and the DNC and the Russians.
Well, I covered it for Fox and Friends, and announcing that the Department of Justice has opened an investigation, as you know, Dan, into the possible pay-for-play scheme. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, let me show you in about a minute or less what a hoax this whole thing is, this Russian collusion nonsense. So Don Trump Jr. meets with some Russian lawyer, right? They're supposed to exchange some kind of information, which never happens. Don Trump Jr. leaves early from this meeting, and Don Trump Jr., in an act of incredible transparency, puts out his emails about the entire incident on social media, right? Nothing changes hands there at all of value. Mrs. Clinton and Bill Clinton take $500,000, that's actual money, right, from Russian banks and people involved in the sale of our nuclear fuel to a Russian company. And there's all of a sudden the Clintons are whining about an investigation while celebrating this Russian collusion thing? You've got to be kidding me. And guys, one more point on this, too, about this Russian collusion thing that I haven't heard anybody in the media yet, I may be wrong, but mention. I think America needs to prepare itself for the idea that this entire thing was a sting against the Trump team the entire time, and that the dossier was just cover for it. The evidence is all over the place. Just go look at the March 2017 testimony of Jim Comey on Capitol Hill. The answer he gives to Representative Elise Stefanik from New York when asked about why he didn't notify Congress about this counterintelligence investigation against Trump. Look at the look on his face in a panic. I think it's the network is closing in on these guys, and they're really worried right now.
And Dan, how big of a role do you think the dossier played? Because we know that it was shared among the intelligence community. We know that it was shown to President Trump, and subsequently CNN had leaked that meeting. We know that it was shopped around the media as well. Many on Capitol Hill believe it was potentially used to obtain a FISA warrant. So how big of a role do you think it actually played?
Lisa, the timeline tells the whole story here. Listen, I've been the loudest voice here and everywhere else saying I thought the dossier was the biggest story. The fact that fake Russian intel was used to spy on a presidential candidate and president-elect, I was wrong. I think it's the second biggest story. I think the biggest story is, why did the investigation into the Trump team start before the dossier? Remember, Jim Comey acknowledged that the investigation started before the FISA warrant was approved in October.
And so,
what was the FBI doing?
Dan,
what were they looking at Trump for?
Let me jump in there then. Are you saying that what Chairman of the Intel Committee, Devin Nunes, getting these documents finally is going to prove that not only was the dossier, you think we're going to find out from what Nunes is getting, that not only was the dossier the impetus for the investigation, but that it that not only was the dossier, you think we're going to find out from what Nunes is getting, that not only was the dossier the impetus for the investigation, but that it began before that?
Griff, that's exactly what I'm saying. That the dossier gave some kind of legal patina, legal cover to a sting operation against the Trump team that people at the DOJ and the FBI